All right, welcome back to The Drive. Craig Harvey here, riding in the driver's seat today. And as you know, my tag team partner for years, Mr. Jordan Smith. How the hell are you?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thank you for coming. You know, you've heard potentially of Smith and Wesson. Well, this is Smith and Harvey. And we are loaded for bear today as we talk, Jordan, about 5 keys to your next 500K. I really think that as I've worked with men and women, young and old, male, female, from Miami to Memphis, Maryland to Minnesota, that have applied the principles that we're going to go over today. They've seen results. So let's jump right in. Key one to me, Jordan, is you've got to stop thinking you and you got to start thinking us. You got to stop thinking you and start thinking us. Here's why I say that. Think about what it would take from a singular standpoint, just you to make $500,000 in a year. My wife went to dental school, took her 9 years. Post dental school, she worked for 3, never hit $500,000 in a year. Now, she probably would have had she not met me, and I was such a distraction to her from a time standpoint. But it's so much easier when you're looking to go to that level of income. When you think, again, not singular, when you think plural. Instead of you having to go out and sell, if it's an item and the commission, again, is 500, whether or not you have a base plus commission, which takes you to $500,000. When you start to think, again, more about us versus you, I think it becomes easy. There's 2 kinds of people, Jordan, that I've seen in business. There are I guys and there are we guys. Make sense? So it's either, it's either us or it's kind of me. And the people that I've seen that have really built scale. Now, look, producers sell, or let's say producers make sales, right? Builders, people that are multipliers, they create scale. In other words, they've learned the power of we and not just me. They've learned the power of us and not just I. And whatever it is, I don't care. Once you start to succeed at something, you want to start getting paid, not just for what you do. You want to start getting paid for what you know. Have you seen that work in your business?
Yeah, I think one thing we work with new builders on and new agents in general is trying to get their pride to the side. Meaning, like, so many people get started and they want to like brand themselves from the get-go. And they've got like 10 followers, or they've never made 500,000, but they're branding their own agency. And so one thing I always try to do is brand to the bigger entity. So even when we were making in excess of 7 figures, like profit, we still branded to North American Senior Benefits or the bigger entity. I think that would be what kind of, hits me on that.
Dude, I never tried to focus long term, again, on just my success. I legitimately pointed and directed and more or less focused on yours and so many others that worked directly with me. And watch, as you guys succeeded, as your monies went up, it really just blew up my income earning potential. And so many people I talk to, just please get this. They don't make it necessarily about themselves once they start to make big money. They really begin to focus on others to do some great things. Have you ever heard of the PayPal Mafia? Ever heard of these guys?
The PayPal Mafia?
PayPal Mafia. So I know it sounds crazy, but there was a time, 1990s, something around that era, when PayPal just came out, and this was a way to pay money on your phone. Well, as criminals often do, wherever someone's making money, they find a way to kind of put their hat in the ring and steal a little bit of the proceeds of the excerpts, and that's what happened. 3 guys, you may remember: Peter Thiel, Reid Hoffman, Elon Musk, all from Silicon Valley, all came together, created PayPal, created this mafia, so to speak. They were branded as that. And looking back, as you know, Thiel goes on to be a leader with Facebook. Reid Hoffman created LinkedIn. We know Elon Musk from Tesla to SpaceX, the different things he's done, even with the White House and the great President Trump. But when they go back and they were interviewed, right now they're fragmented. Their friendship is kind of broken apart. But when you look at where the inception of their individual success began, it was unified. In other words, only when they came together, only when they started to put their ideas and their thoughts in congruence with one another, were they able to kind of find some singularity Not that they wouldn't have been successful, but I think one would argue that had they not, again, been in relationship, focused on the we versus the me, focused on the us versus the I, they might have never gotten there. I think about you and I think about Chad Milner, I think about the different partners that we have had. Had we not worked together the way we did, might we have been as successful as we became? I doubt it.
Right.
I don't think I would have gotten as far as I did had it not been for the relationship that we have had. Haven't you seen that?
Absolutely. So you always joke that you do a few things well.
Yeah.
But the things you do, like that's your wheelhouse. I'm the same way. And I think most people, they start making a little bit of money, they have some success, and they go, my God, I could do this myself. Like I could start my own agency, or I could start my own company, and not thinking about all the other, potential weaknesses that would be better to delegate to somebody that's their strength. So I think about our company, and Chad was great at what he did, running the home office and doing all the things I didn't want to do.
Sure.
And you probably didn't want to do too, right? I partnered with you because you could fill in some strengths with where I was weak. And no, it's made all the difference.
So, there's a story, it's true, up in Amish country, in Ohio, Pennsylvania. They teach this theory called draft horses.
Okay.
And my grandfather was a farmer.
Yeah.
Literally, his name was Guy Farmer. Right? He built houses.
So this is Guy
Farmer.
Guy?
Papa. Yeah,
Guy?
Guy Farmer.
All right.
G-U-Y. That's right. Like Guy Harvey, but Guy Farmer.
Okay.
True story. One draft horse can pull 8,000 pounds.
All right.
But when draft horses are yoked together, when it becomes about we versus me, when it becomes about us versus I, you would think if one horse can pull 8, what do you think 2 horses together could pull?
I mean, you would think 16,000, but I'm probably wrong.
Way up. Way up.
Yeah.
Upwards above 30,000 pounds. How in the hell does that make mathematical sense? It shows you the power of unity. It shows you the power of us and we versus I and me. And I'm telling you, it's the first key to making $500,000, your next $500,000, your next 500,000. It comes from those professional alliances and those shared skill sets coming together. Look, you'll do more together than you will apart. It's finding the right guys to network with. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Good. Let's get to number 2.
Yep.
Stop offering products alone and start offering yourself. And here's why I say that. Whenever you're looking to scale, whenever you're looking to build, whenever you're looking to develop whatever organization you've got or you're a part of, people aren't buying necessarily what you're selling, they're buying you. Does that make sense? Now, the vehicle we chose was insurance. But nobody grows up playing, insurance man as a kid, right? Little Beckett, your son, is he ever dressed up for Halloween as the insurance man?
Not yet.
All right, I didn't think so. Well, my son Caden didn't. My little boy Rocky won't either. And dude, it's just a principle that I've learned is that people buy me. Everyone within your organization, the thousands of people that worked with you, it wasn't necessarily what you were selling, it was who was selling it, and they chose to follow you. Whenever someone's left my company, NESB, our company, they really didn't leave the company. Jordan, they left me. They left you. And so it took me a long time to take ownership of that, look, people are buying me versus what it is I'm selling. And when someone leaves the company, what they're really doing is they're leaving you. People see the results in you, and that's why they choose to follow. That's why they choose to listen. That's why they choose to lean in. That's why they choose to show up. Have you seen that in your business?
Yeah. Dude, absolutely. So you think about even from a sales standpoint with a client, clients buy the agent more than they buy the product or the price, you could say. And so, we're big on getting people to try to see the focus of being a specialist versus a generalist. Because you can look at it too and look at the doctors that make the most money. It's typically a surgeon or a specialist that focuses on one area of medicine.
That's right.
But they go deep in that area and they're great. Versus somebody that says, well, I'm a general practitioner and I deal with all different types of medicine and all different types. It's the same thing with insurance. We look at agents that they've got every license they're known to mankind. They can help you with property, casualty, auto insurance. Did you ever sell auto insurance?
Hell no.
Did you ever sell an annuity?
I can't spell
I
annuity.
don't think you did. So my point is, you out-earned most people that had infinite amount of licenses to do insurance, but you went deep and all in on one.
Yeah, my last year, $4.2 million before we sold to Integrity was my 1099 deposits, and it was a singular focused product. But the way I was able to earn that in 1 year, the scale was through people buying into me. And again, you don't want to make it about yourself while you ultimately know Somebody's got to be the face of the franchise. I love what Tom Brady said. You're of them, but you're above them. And so in leadership and in business, the moment we forget that, listen, whenever I went to hire anyone, whenever you are hiring someone, there's 3 questions they ask. First question they ask is, let's say, Jordan, you're hiring me. The question is, do you, Jordan, like me? It moves me to be liked. It moves me as someone that's working for you to know that, hey, this guy believes in me. This guy thinks I have a future. I'm going home and telling my spouse, my significant other, Jordan Smith spent time with me. He likes me. Second thing, can Jordan teach me? Can you teach me? Can you develop me? Can you take me from where I'm at to a place that I'm not? And because I'm paying you, because you're in my corner, I have a greater opportunity to win the fight, to win the match, to win the game because of you. Ultimately, though, you know what they're asking? Do I trust the leader? And so think about that. Number 1, do they like me? Right? Number 2, can they teach me? But then the third thing, which comes right back to us as leaders, do they trust me? Bro, I know you've seen that in your business.
Well, it's the 2 most important components in a sale is likability and trust. Well, it's the same thing in recruiting. So think about this. I've got the analogy lately I've been on where recruiters are like collegiate coach recruiters. Meaning like a collegiate coach that's got to recruit his team, and he's got certain scholarships that he can fill, but he's got certain value proposition at his school, right? Why would somebody go to UGA versus UNC? Right? Well, okay. But Kirby's got to know what his value proposition is. Okay, what scholarships, how many does he have? What does that mean? What does it entail? What does it mean to play for me? And he's got to be able to then not only know it, but communicate it to the recruits to be able to get them on board. It's the same thing when you're recruiting for business or for salespeople.
One of the great stories I heard from Alexander the Great, there was a gentleman named Herodias. There wasn't TMZ, there wasn't reporters back in the day, right? Everything was scribed. They wrote it down. And Herodias noted everything that Alexander the Great did. What time he went to bed, what he ate, his restroom breaks. I mean, he wrote everything down. Okay. One of the things he noticed when they were going back and reading Herodias's accounts of following Alexander the Great was never seen or heard to have told anyone to go. Okay. The great one, Alexander the Great, invited people to come. And so one of the things I've learned about leadership is instead of telling people to go, telling them what to do, invite them to come and to join me. Invite them to a place I'm at. So you got to ask yourself, where are you at? Where are you going? Once you get there, it's so much freaking easier to invite an army to join you than it is to telling an army where to go that you're not at. You believe it?
Love it.
It's true. It's absolutely true.
Point number 3.
Let's go to 3 quickly. Invest largely in your best. And dude, this is going to sound cruel. This is going to sound assholic. I hope it doesn't come across like that. But if it is and it makes you rich, guess what? A lot of the things that I've applied in my life sounded cruel at the time, but the check's cashed. There's an 80-20 principle. It's called the Pareto principle that really works in so many areas. 20% of the some things do 80% of the everythings. Example, 20% of the people, this is documented, eat 80% of the food at any church picnic. Are you aware of that? True story. 20% of the people drink 80% of the alcohol at any open bar at a wedding. 20% of the people in your organization and in ours really caused 80% of the problems. 20% of the people often create 80% of the growth and the change and the results. And so for years, as you begin to develop and as you begin to grow, the most powerful commodity you have is what? Time. It's time. Where you invest your time is completely dependent upon the results that you experience. And look, you don't want to be a prick. You don't want to be that jerk that, has his favorite 4. But can I tell you something? If you don't find your favorite 4, you're not going to get to your next 500K. Craig, what are you saying? Well, if you got 10 guys, find your top 2. And that needs to be where the majority of your time, maybe top 3, right? The majority of your time goes. If you get to 20, there's top 4. If you get to 40, right, then you're finding that top 20%. I know you and I did that. We saw the greatest return from the best we had on our roster. Am I right?
Dude, yeah. So lately we've been focusing a lot on influencing influencers. And if I think back of a huge mistake I used to make, big mistake, I used to craft my messages. So if we were talking to 1,000 salespeople to like the masses, and I was always hopeful that we would take like a mediocre agent and improve their sales. Or take somebody that was below average. Like if we could just say something to take anybody below average and get them up to average. What I realize is people are going to be what they're going to be. And you've got to take that time, energy, focus on attracting, but also crafting your message and spending your time, relationships with your top 20%. Jimmy Johnson was probably my favorite football coach of all time. Coached the Dallas Cowboys, coached the Miami Hurricanes, one of the only people to do both collegiate and NFL. And he was famous for saying, I treat all my players fair, but that's not equal. Like he'll make an example out of somebody that was maybe a bench warmer that he probably wasn't going to do to Troy Aikman or Emmett or Irvin. But it was a key thought that always stuck with me, that everybody gets treated fair based on their relationship and what they brought to the table. It doesn't always mean equal.
Remember in the, I believe they were playing I believe it was the Cowboys playing the Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken, when Leon Lett went and touched that ball. That's when I heard him say that.
The snow game.
Snow game. Remember, everybody's treated fair, but they're not all treated the same.
Right.
He was saying that to Leon, that, hey, dude, it's okay. You screwed that one up, but you've made up for it time and time again. Here's what I've done. I've looked at my roster, my organization. Let's say you've got 100 folks. 20 of those 100 are going to create the momentum to be able to get you to places that it's not that the other 80 didn't have the same opportunity that those 20 had. It's just there's only so much time as a leader that you have that you're able to divvy out. Let me tell you something that probably your leader or you in leadership know to be true. I have a Rolodex. You have a Rolodex. Now that Rolodex is dating me, but there's notes, files in your head of who you can really trust, of who you can count on. When the chips are down, these are the individuals that you're going to circle the wagons with, so to speak. And understanding who those people are, Jordan, that is the difference between you hitting your next $500,000. You know what I see? I see so many people that are unable to identify the right 20%.
Yeah, and if I could jump in there, so as you're building an organization, let's say it's insurance, let's say it's a real estate brokerage, it could be an MLM, whatever it is, if it's a sales organization, like a lot of people, Craig, they think that means they spend all their time with their direct reports. Meaning in reality, think about this. If you've got a large organization of 500 agents, odds are your best people aren't necessarily the ones reporting direct to you.
Sure.
Oftentimes it comes in depth. They're 2, 3, 4 away from you. How can you identify those people? And then how can you start building a relationship where they feel like they can still rise up to leadership? So I look at my organization. We had 2,500 people write business last year. I've only got one. Let me be careful with this. One that I probably hired direct to me that's a phenomenal leader still. Most of them came in depth, relationships away. But I'll be talking to new managers sometimes, and I'll say, how's the pulse of your team? What's going on here? And they say, well, I don't deal with them. I just let my directs deal with them. Big mistake, because now they're not identifying who the up-and-coming leaders are, and there's no relationship there. Well, think about one other point on this. The reason relationships so big down deeper in an organization is people don't always stay forever. So you had times where you had like a leader leave the company. It's fine. They move on to something else. But you had relationships ingrained downline with the best leaders in that group. They stayed.
True.
So it wasn't a huge loss for you.
Well, look, every living organism needs a good bowel movement every now and then.
Yeah.
And God knows we've shit out people in this company that needed to go, that I was proud and happy to flush, that we were better off without them than we were with them. I think oftentimes, too, we look for the wrong things. You know what I can't teach? Trust. I can teach technique. I can teach content. I can't teach character. And so, you know what's easy to do? Empowering people. You know what's tough doing? Taking power when you've empowered the wrong person. And so, dude, I'm telling you, being the GM that puts the right people around you and targets that top 20, the right 20%, that's, I'm telling you, one of the keys to your next $500,000. Let me give you number 4 quickly. Delegate what you don't dominate. Now, you're probably the kind of guy that thinks you dominate everything. Am I right?
No.
Didn't you tell me
I'm good at a couple things.
You were like the number 1 ranked Madden player in the world at one point?
That's one of the couple things I happen to be good at. Before insurance, I played a lot of Madden, online college years. And yeah, I played so much one year. Yeah, they keep the rankings and stuff on PlayStation. You played Atari back in your day, but PlayStation, they'll keep like the rankings every month. I was number 1 basically when I retired on the PlayStation Network.
Was your name Eat Most Cereal? What was it?
It wasn't my name. No.
Are you sure? It wasn't it? Okay. Is it true or is it false that you were banned from MGM casinos because you were such a damn great gambler? Yes or no?
I mean, there's rumors to that, but where are you going with
I'm
this?
going that all of us have weaknesses.
Okay.
And it at times, A, we don't want to show it, B, we don't want to admit it. But can I tell you, everybody sees it. We're only great at a handful of things.
Right.
And when we learn to delegate what it is that we don't dominate, number one, that thing gets done better, right? But here's what I've learned. There are people walking around that what I hated doing, dude, they love doing. Things that absolutely just like, oh, I got to do that. Yeah, you got to do that. To be able to go to next levels, you've got to track business. You've got to be able to hold accountable. You've got to be able, so many different things within your organization. And where I see guys not hitting the numbers they could, the results that they could potentially experience, it's that they're not delegating what they're not dominating. Have you seen that?
Right. Yeah, too much. Dude, I think most leaders are guilty of this for a time because most people with leadership qualities, man, they want things done, so they want it done right, and therefore they think that they're going to be the one to do it right. So most every great leader I've worked with, you included, had to start to like let things go that you probably were uncomfortable passing over. But here's what happens I've learned in leadership if you don't do that. You then become the ceiling of your organization. So if you're not willing to hand that off to somebody else, and there's a great leadership thought that when do you hand it off? When somebody can do it about as well as you with momentum to eventually do it better, hopefully. But now you start to multiply. Like I think of Ray Kroc. You ever see the movie The Founder?
Phenomenal.
Reminds me of Keith Thomas and a friend of
Little
ours.
bit.
Right. So Ray was doing literally like everything at McDonald's. He would do was sweeping the floor. He was doing running the cash register. But there's some power in that because no job was beneath him in his business, but also he knew how to do everything. So if he had to train it, he had to hire, there was a problem. So that's important. But if he wouldn't have started to delegate certain things, no way they would ever have been able to scale. In fact, that's why the original McDonald brothers didn't scale. They wanted to retain, all that power, and they weren't willing to delegate and trust new franchisees, right? New employees. So that was a lesson I think I took from that movie.
Well, there's hunters and there's gatherers, right? My father was a minister, and he would say, some people are evangelists while others are disciplers. Makes sense? Some are goers, some are senders.
Right.
We can't do everything. And when my business really began to take off was when I found individuals. When I say delegate, I don't mean that you dump the responsibility without going through specifically what you're looking for. It was just big through communication, saying this is what needs to be done, while my time is focused on finding new individuals, prospecting for the organization, making sure that subject matter, if it's through conference calls or through Zooms or through conventions, is as sharp as it possibly can be. But a lot of people, Jordan, they don't want to invest because here's the point. Nobody's going to do it for free. Nobody's going to do it for free. My assistant, the great Teresa, was talking to me before our segment this morning, and she was talking about her son. And her son was looking to get into the business. She said, Craig, as he did his ride-along, he noticed that where he would probably be better suited was to come alongside a producer, someone that's really building on a larger scale, and help them with all of the things that go into making sure that the growth that they have is sustained and they're not regressing. And I said, Teresa, that's great, but those jobs pay differently. I mean, you do understand that, right? And so, but a lot of people get to a place to where they don't invest in themselves. Some of the best money I ever have spent is through hiring assistants that have made my life so much easier. But you know how hard it's been to twist the arms of guys to delegate what they don't dominate because they don't want to reinvest in their business, reinvest in themselves. You know that. You've got 5 assistants right now, don't you?
Not quite. So, but yeah, man, like here's the other thing too. As you start to grow, man, there's certain things you just don't like doing. And so to me, like business
And
was
Jordan,
more so
what you don't like doing, you probably suck at.
right, absolutely. But even if it was something I was good at, like I remember for a long time I was focused on leads so much, and like I was decent with leads and wanted to make sure every agent had what they needed, but it was taking up so much time, and eventually it was causing a worse quality of life. And so I think like for most people listening that want to grow their business, it's not just for amount of money. It's to get a better lifestyle. Now, the amount of money will lead to hopefully a better lifestyle. So as you grow, it's like, dude, what do you just hate doing? Okay, can I find somebody that's, by the way, better than me at that? Like they're better than me and I don't like doing it? Great. It's a win-win for me. It's off my plate and I've actually improved, that area.
So on delegate what you don't dominate. Do you ever clean anything at home?
Dude.
Sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. A
Cold
laundry,
cleans everything.
crush laundry,
Do you?
dishes.
so
My girls do
laundry.
dishes.
I, I bet I could outfold a shirt.
I'm sure you could.
You worked at the
I mean, you're very finely pressed,
you
and
did. So the 409 story. You ever hear this?
no,
It's these three kids in college. They were trying to come up with a cleaning solution,
okay.
and they tried and tried and tried and tried and failed and failed and failed. There was one. They were chemists in
Yeah.
essence. There was a segment that they were missing, and
Mm.
they didn't want to bring anybody else into the business. It was just these three guys.
Right.
They finally said, look, this one area, and God knows I'm not a chemist, but this one area they were missing to the formula, they decided to reach out, listen, kind of delegate what they weren't dominating,
Yeah.
and bring in an individual to help them with the formula. Upon this gentleman's joining the organization or the team, on their 409th batch, they finally got it right.
Mm.
Think about that. What if they had stopped after 198 fails? Think about it.
200
seats. It's 408, right?
I've done this 408 times.
Just think it's great.
Done.
We finally got it. We brought somebody in. We delegated what we weren't dominating,
Right.
and this freaking works. What do we call it? Well, shit, it's taken us 409 tries. Why not 409?
Do you think it really took them that long, though?
That's what.
You think they just exaggerated the number to
Check the story. It's
you do
It's on the internet. It's got to be true. No, it is true. And I think in times in business and in life, to really hit it big like these guys did, you've got to be willing to spend to win, to delegate what you don't dominate. And I just love that 409 story. Let me give you the last point here as we're talking about 5 keys to your next 500K. This one's huge, Jordan. Upgrade your network.
Mm.
Dude, it's huge. If you're the smartest person in your crew, you need a new crew. Seriously. I mean, upgrade whom it is that is the biggest influencers in your life. You've seen that, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, we used to say your network is your net worth.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like, dude, I would imagine it's the first time I've been to your home in your new studios. Tremendous home. I would imagine, not to put you on the spot, is this the most expensive home in the neighborhood?
Just, Emerald Lagasse lives like at the end.
So you're second to Emerald?
Probably.
So that's why you don't like it. No,
I like
but like, I'm going somewhere here. Realtors say you actually should do the opposite. They say you should buy like the least expensive home in the
Blame my
neighborhood.
wife, Jordan. Blame my wife.
But here's why. The thought is the network, your neighborhood around you pull up your value versus if you make the mistake that Emerald made or you made and buy the most expensive home in the zip code or the neighborhood, everybody else pulls you down. Dude, it's like that with your network. So your association's huge. And when they say you're going to be like the people that you hang around with the most, 5 people around you, that's unfortunately true for some people, right? And so you got to be very careful on who your network is and who you're closest with.
Let's do this little exercise. If you're watching and not driving, do this exercise with me. Jordan, will you just grab your phone?
Yeah.
Grab your phone. Look at and go to your favorites, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, my cell phone's right there, but if I had it, I'd show you. When you pull up my favorites, my first is my wife. Okay,
What if you have no favorites? What does that say about you? Do you have no favorites?
Lonely.
I don't say,
That's
dude,
what you.
it's hard to make the favorites on my list.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Well, let me tell you about the favorites on mine real fast. This is important. By the way, do this. Would you do this? Do this exercise. This is key. Number one on my list is my wife, Alexandra. Now,
Okay.
Alexandra is a double doctorate, childhood psychology and dentistry. She's one of 250 dentists in the United States licensed to do what she does. She's 34 years young, just an amazing talent. So she makes the list. Caden is number 2. He's a sophomore at the University of Georgia, wanting to aspire to go into journalism. Eden's number 3. You, sir, are 4. You're 4 on my list.
Okay.
A multi-millionaire. I know you don't like to brag about it, okay? But your watch collection and your shoe collection, talk about houses, your home, Lord have mercy. It's an absolute castle. Chad Milner is number 5. Evan Proach is number 6, which, by the way, Chad Milner, multi-millionaire, coming from the Milner Group line and family. Evan Proach made $3.8 million last year. Keith Thomason is in my favorites, another $3 million earner. As I went through my favorites and just looked, Blair Ollendorf, one of the most successful, intelligent, my neighbor, Daniel, right across the street here, sold his business, $15 million. What am I saying? When you look at my favorites, if I'm the sum total of who my friendships are, and when I look through my favorites and I'm like, these are the people I talk to the most,
Right.
and look at how successful they are. Now you're probably watching. How the hell do you do that, Craig? How do you find these people? It's intentional. When I you talk about networking, it's understanding that whom I'm friends with, whom I'm in relationship with, whom I'm going to dinner with, whom I'm talking to the most, is going to be a reflection of where I go and who I become. And so, dude, I became intentional about the people that I let get close to me. I understood that my relationships are such a reflection of the revenue. I've got to upgrade my network if I'm going to get to that $500,000 number. So at churches that at times I would have been invited to, hadn't been to church in, probably 10 years, but when I did go, I would seek out guys that I felt had something to offer, and I just invite them to lunch. Hey man, could I take you to lunch and pick your brain? Gyms that I've frequented and gone to, golf courses that I'm a member of. I intentionally would find people that I felt there'd be a mutual respect and admiration, but I felt like they could stretch me, help me, pour into me. And so many relationships now that I have came from being intentional about who it was that I was trying to spend my time with. How about you?
Well, I think the key words you said were you got to be intentional about that, but also always looking to upgrade it. Because, I mean, we all fall into the human nature of just being around people we're comfortable with. And so if you think about whatever company you're with working now, most people gravitate to others that are like them or at their level or below because it's easy, right? But you got to be careful with that because now it's easier for them to drag you down than for you to just grab all of them and lift them up. So with whatever company you're at, I would try to find like who's the top seller in the company. That's how I found you. I'd heard you were the top seller and the top agency manager, and I didn't know you, but I sought you out. So I'm like, well, yeah, I'm down here. He's up here. He can maybe help me. So who is it that you can seek counsel from, but also start to upgrade your network and be intentional about your network?
We can talk all day about these 5 tips, but the great Kobe Bryant, the late great Kobe Bryant, Tim Grover was his a manager or a trainer, so to speak. And after every game, no matter where Kobe played, Tim was in the stands. And as Kobe walked off the court, whether they won or lost, Grover would look to Bryant and simply say this: 4, 5, or 6. Now, when you hear that, you're thinking, wow, was he asking how many for reservations tonight? How many are, on the plane flying back? If they're playing in Minnesota, or they're playing in Boston, or they're maybe playing at home. That wasn't it. Grover was asking him 4, 5, or 6, which meant 4 a.m., 5 a.m., or 6 a.m. the next morning. And Grover was going to meet Kobe after every game. He knew the next day, Kobe, 4, 5, or 6. And Kobe would shout out a number, 4, 5, or 6. And inevitably, Tim writes that when he would show up, Kobe was already drenched with sweat, having beat him there, which tells us, look, these principles are great, but if you're not willing to work your ass off, you're never going to make your first or your next $500K. Thank you for tuning into The Drive. We'll see you next time.